News Radio 600 Kogo San Diego Business Weekend, and welcome to your weekend. I'm Sully. So great to have you along today. We got Christina Gustin from UBS and RKG Wealth Management going to join us. One of the most important guys I've got to talk to today is going to be Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy. Yep, gas prices are up. I have an answer for you on how you can actually make money on this whole deal. And then a really cool company founded here in San Diego called Melin, M-E-L-I-N. And they make stuff for your melon, as in your head, because they make hats. Upscale hats. Can you imagine? And there's a really cool San Diego tie-in, especially with the founder that we're going to have on in just a little bit here. San Diego Business Saturday and Sunday on the air. All right, so let's get into this thing here because it was it started out as a difficult week on Wall Street. Basically, last weekend, oil posted its biggest ever intraday jump after an airstrike on a Saudi oil facility knocked out literally 5% of global supplies in one day. It raised the specter of way more destabilization in the region. So as a result of that, you saw oil jump significantly. And we're talking, remember, oil was trading at $43, $45 a barrel. In fact, and if you look at the range for oil going back, a year ago, for oil, it's amazing that we ignored oil for as long as we did, because it's one of those things where I just don't know why we don't take a closer look. But oil was trading at $43 a barrel just recently. It's at $58, $59, $60. So it's one of those deals where you've got to pay attention, and you can't necessarily make the assumption that it's going to just drop back down just because this was a black swan event or an event of war, so to speak. So for me, I have a philosophy about oil stocks. I've got a philosophy about the fact that I'm a bit of a contrarian when it comes to oil, because I don't care when gas prices go up, because I'll just go buy 1 or 2 shares of ExxonMobil. And XOM, I think, is trading at like $70 a share. So go invest. You're not spending money. You're investing $150 or so. Go invest $150 on a couple of shares of stock. And when that stock increases as a result of better revenue, better earnings, or because usually stock prices go up in tandem with oil prices, especially with gas companies. So it doesn't bother me as much as the average bear. Now, I know that's probably Christina Gustin is going to slap me around a little bit for that one, because I'm buying individual stocks and I'm doing it based upon a knee-jerk reaction of when oil goes up. But still, that's how I can mitigate bad events like that, and I'm going to fight with her a little bit on that. So that's what happened on Wall Street. The other thing that happened this week on Wall Street, and I think this is interesting to note, is that we have the interest rate debacle, and I'm calling it a debacle because I could make a case for no rate cut for the next 18 months. Of course, Donald Trump blasted Jerome Powell after the rate cut and called him no guts, no vision, no sense, no whatever. Caustic criticism of the Federal Reserve chairman after the central bank cut rates, but was sort of unclear about what it's going to do in the future. Look, and I was on KUSI talking about this week, and I was over on Kogo on Chris Merrill's show talking about this as well. Look, the Fed Reserve doesn't set interest rates for mortgages or cars or credit cards or other consumer loans. And it doesn't set rates for checking or savings accounts or consumer bank deposits. And it doesn't print money. And it although it did do quantitative easing earlier this week, but it doesn't set prices for goods and services. It basically sets monetary policy so the U.S. achieves maximum employment, which we're at, moderate long-term interest rates, which we have, but also stable prices. And stable prices is the issue here. because, and by the way, that's by law. What you needed to look at in this Fed meeting this week was a global slowdown. There is a slowing global economy. It is a risk. It's a big risk. The Eurozone is showing a 0.2% GDP last quarter. Germany, the biggest component of the Eurozone, is at a 0.1%. There's a global slowdown going on. We're doing good here, not so much there. The other thing is trade policy. We're in the middle of a tariff war, so the Fed's looking at that. But the other thing is low inflation. Remember that part I just told you about we needed stable prices, right? We have persistently low inflation. The core consumer price index, which excludes food and energy, it rose 0.3% for the third consecutive month. But we have almost zero inflation right now. And you say to yourself, well, isn't that good? Isn't good low? Well, yeah, but then there's this thing called deflation. We need to be in a really tight range between stable increase in prices versus deflation where things are just cheap. Because if things are too cheap, then producers don't produce. And if producers don't produce, they fire workers because they're not selling anything. And if they fire workers, you're not spending money because you don't have a job. And if you don't spend money, what happens to the economy? You can't have persistent deflation. We have a very strong risk of deflation. So that's why the Fed lowered interest rates. Honestly, that's the only thing. I think it was also to mollify, you can look that up, the president. Because the president has his finger firmly in the chest of Jerome Powell right now. And I think if you take a 50,000 foot view, you'll probably agree with me that there really isn't any other need for an interest rate cut. Now, the markets reacted to this interest rate cut this week in a really interesting way, because in past times you'd see a big jump. Market was sideways, as I predicted, and I think the reason it was sideways was because of the fact that they didn't talk about more cuts in the future. So here to talk about that and more, my good friend Christina Gustin. Christina Gustin is with UBS Financial and RKG Wealth Management. I refer to her another client this week. She doesn't advertise on the program. She's just a person I trust inherently. In fact, I'm putting my daughter's, who is just now starting to invest, I'm going to put her in Christina's capable hands. Christina, thanks for joining us again this weekend. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Do you guys care about interest rate cuts over there? Do you guys react to that?
We care very much about interest rate cuts. I think, with the amount of money that we manage, we're running about $900 million now. A good majority of that is owned by folks that are retired. So fixed income, which is very much the bond world, is very much affected by what goes on with interest rates. I think the Fed chair did exactly what everyone thought he was going to do today by lowering 0.25%. But I was really happy with the way he expressed what he was doing, and basically he said, we're not on a preset course. We're going to take it meeting by meeting because, like you, I don't think that giant cuts like Trump wants are really warranted right now.
I don't think so either. I don't think you can make a case for it. I mean, I honestly, other than for political reasons, I don't see a reason for a rate cut, even for the inflation argument I just mentioned. We are at maximum employment. We already have 2% interest rates on mortgages. And if you look at the earnings and let's cover every spectrum of the U.S. spender, okay? Nordstrom, high end, Target, lower end, Home Depot, everyone, Dick's Sporting Goods, everyone. All of them are reporting crazy good earnings. Meaning what? We're spending money, right? So you've got a GDP that's probably going to come in pretty decent. I think the big challenge here is wage deflation or wage stagnation anyway. But I just don't see a reason for a rate cut here unless they see something we can't see, right?
Yeah, and they're acknowledging that the economy is slowing. I think the growth rate was about 2.9% in 2018, and they're predicting 2.2 for this year. So, things are slowing. I think they've acknowledged that, and hence the cut. But like you said, the consumer is still very strong. Spending is strong, and that's the foundation of our economy is the consumer. So
from where you're at right now, with an interest rate cut, but no predictions for the future, where does that put your investment philosophy now? Are we accumulating here? Or are we standing by? I mean, if I said buy, sell, or hold on the market as a whole, Do any of those fit your strategy at this point, given what's going on with A, the economy, and B, we don't really know what interest rates are going to do from here on out? Because it seems like he just placated the president on this one. Honestly, didn't it feel like that?
I think we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. We're not making any big changes. I think one of the risks, especially for fixed income investors, is that if you're reinvesting at lower rates right now, you're decreasing the yield on your overall portfolio. So we're trying to avoid doing that if we do have to do that because there's some kind of liquidity event. We're doing so for a very short term and waiting to see kind of what happens over the next 12 to 18 months, but not making any big changes right now. Luckily, for all of our equity investments on the stock side, the market's done incredibly well this year. So staying invested has certainly paid off. And you hear me say it all the time, just have a long-term point of view and keep your money working for you.
And I think the piece of that we have to understand is the fact that you got to have money at risk. It's not always going to go up. We're going to have days that go down, and I think that's we need to go. And you and I have talked about this off the air before. We need to figure out the data points for had you taken your money out of the stock market every time we had a down day the last 7 years versus keeping it in. I think you'd be surprised how much money you lost by trying to be safe. Christina, thank you so much. Christina Gustin, RKG Wealth Management, UBS. Give her a ring, and she's right downtown. Text me or email me through the website, and I'll get you that. Of course, again, she's not a sponsor. She's just a person I trust, and you should trust her too. All right, Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy coming up in a second. Got to figure out what the heck's going on with their gas prices. Wow. San Diego Business Weekend, News Radio 600 Kogo. Welcome to your weekend, San Diego Business Weekend. I'm Sully, News Radio 600 Kogo. Catch me every morning here at the San Diego Morning News with Ted LaDonna right here on News Radio 600 Kogo. Also over there at KOSI, Good Morning San Diego with Paul Rudy, Lauren Finney, and the gang. Also Big Biz Show with Rusty Nails and I. We've been on the air for 22 years on radio, TV for 13, 110 million broadcast TV homes, 150 radio stations, and we're also in 175 countries on Armed Forces Radio Network. You can find us there at bigbizshow.com. Coming up in just a few minutes, really excited because I have now spent well over $300 on hats at Melin, M-E-L-I-N. I wonder if they said, do you think Melin's a play on words? There it is. In fact, if you're listening to us on radio here between San Diego and Santa Barbara out to Yuma, when the show is over today, you can go to kogo.com, keyword Sully, and you can watch the TV version. So we tape a version right from the Big Biz Show set at Jump Television Studios, and you can actually check it out. But hey, pull that website up one more time, would you, Chris? Or is it Curtis? Curtis Matovich, our assistant director, Chris Janicus, our director. So I know it's called melinbrand.com, but is it Melin Headwear? Is that what it's called? Well, I'm going to ask him. But okay, so see that white hat there? I got one of those. See the black one next to it? Got one of those. I mean, this is for me like you guys spend money on watches and stuff. I have spent just a buttload of money on hats. I just bought 3 more hats before this guy walked in. I should have just asked him to bring me some. Anyway, good stuff. By the way, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin talked about trade this week, and he said the U.S. has made a lot of progress in talks with China. And he says the goal is to get a good deal, obviously. But Chinese officials are planning a trip to Washington in October. And I would say that's a sign of good faith. So China's exports to the U.S. tumbled 16% in August, meaning that the tariffs are actually working. Also this week, GM workers went on strike for the first time in 12 years. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But more importantly, my good friend Patrick DeHaan is with us. Patrick DeHaan, of course, with GasBuddy.com. And Patrick DeHaan is the head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy.com. GasBuddy has a gas price temperature map, I think is the best way. And we've been using it on Big Biz Show for the better part of 10 years. And it sort of shows you state by state who's spending the most money, and it goes from green to red. California, unfortunately, is purple. This is not a political statement. This is where our average price per gallon in the state of California is $3.34. I don't know where they're looking, because if you could find $3.34 gas in California, I'll drive there. Because that ain't, you're staring on the barrel of $4 a gallon these days. Anyway, Patrick's going to join us here in just 1 second, because what happened earlier in the week is oil posted its biggest ever intraday jump, up 20% at one point, ended up, I think, up 10% at the end of the day after this strike on a Saudi oil facility, knocking out about 5% of global supply. So I went on the air, not only on KUSI, on KOGO, on Fox Business, MSNBC, on several networks, saying, look, go buy some stock in oil stocks. Go buy ExxonMobil, go buy Valero. If you want to mitigate what's going to happen at the pump, maybe go invest in, you don't have to buy hundreds of shares, just buy a couple of shares. Here to talk about that, Patrick DeHaan, head of analysis for GasBuddy.com. So, Buddy, you and I have talked about this for a million years, about just how bad it is in California. And as we look at this, at a black swan event like this, JP1A jet fuel is going to go up. What are we up? We're now $62, $63 a barrel versus $43. Give us the crystal ball, man. Tell us it's not going to go off completely off the cliff.
Well, it's interesting. I got to thinking, you talked about that heat map. I don't know if there's ever been a time that California has been less than like orange or red.
I don't think I've never, listen, I've been using this thing since you were in high school before you even worked there. And it's never not been red.
I think that's permanent. I think that's not, necessarily a smart coding. I just think we just colored it red permanently or purple, just depending on how awful it is. Awful or super awful.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Like you mentioned, it's been a heck of a time after the attacks on Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we're talking about a significant chunk of global oil production.
Oh, there it is.
Oil prices obviously skyrocketed, and motorists are starting to feel that pinch at the pump come back. But the situation has gotten a little better. Thankfully, oil that had been at 63 and change is now back down to where it was closer last week at about $58 and change.
But so, Patrick, hold on a second.
Good news.
Hold on a second. So Patrick DeHaan, by the way, head of petroleum analysis for GasBuddy.com, and we use GasBuddy.com all the time here on KOGO, and we use it also in the Big Biz Show. But this is the interesting part about this thing. This is the time of the year when the summer blend goes away. We're supposed to inherently lose price at the pump. It's supposed to be easier on us at the pump at this point, Patrick. And the bottom line is, this thing just caused, the impetus to, for gas companies to raise their prices. Do you think that this was just a 1 week sort of black swan event, or is this going to affect us? Because I will tell you, it will affect JP1A airline fuel, because those guys price out 6 months in advance. Is this going to be a bad sign for the winter here in California, in your opinion, or is this a short-term thing?
I think it is. It is certainly a black swan event, but it is not something that's going to stick around. In fact, Saudi Arabia earlier had said that they're going to get production back online quicker than anticipated. I mean, that's pretty mind-boggling, given I think it was 17 or perhaps even more missiles striking these facilities. So this is pretty astounding. And so I think this may be an impact that is not felt even as badly as some of the refinery kinks that we've felt in the past 5 years.
So my question for you is, when you hear the president and others talk about that we are net exporters of oil now, I mean, at one point in the last several years, if you looked at Canada, Mexico, and the U.S., we covered 53% of our own oil. And now things are in a sort of a different, dare I say, better spot than they were prior. Talk about our dependence on foreign oil now. Talk about why we're still affected, even though we're a net exporter, why we're still affected by the Middle East.
You raise a great point. I had a lively discussion online this morning of that word exactly. Energy independence. What does it mean to different people? To the president, I mean, net. We are an energy exporter, net. But part of that net is the fact that we still have imports that are 6.5 to 7 million barrels a day. So, we're only a net exporter with imports. And the definition of independence is not being self-reliant. It's being self-sufficient. And the U.S. straight up, and I'm a stickler for definitions, I would argue the U.S. is not energy independent, because without Canada, without Mexico, with the Middle East, we are not insulated. And that's what we're finding out very quickly. We cannot make it on our own.
Yeah, I agree. With respect to that, you and I talked about this as well. And by the way, Patrick DeHaan joins us once again here on the program, and we'll take him anytime we can get him, because he's a resource for us. And again, gasbuddy.com is the website. He is head of petroleum analysis. He has his finger on the pulse of everything that's going on with respect to energy. If you think in terms of the dent that the Teslas of the world are making, they're not making a huge dent, but they're indeed making a dent. Is that where we're going? Is that the transportation of the future? I mean, I realize clean energy is important. But petroleum is also really good for this country for a number of reasons, not just getting us around, but the jobs it creates and the economic narrative that it creates as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, certainly you're not going to see a plane that's powered by batteries. That's just never going to happen. I mean, perhaps not, maybe after, but yeah, four wheels rolling around in a car, it makes more sense to be an electric vehicle. You're not as tied, not as tied up. And the infrastructure is coming along. I think that's the way we're going. And I think it may be here a little quicker, because Tesla's been so successful that other manufacturers, Audi, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, everyone wants a piece of the pie, and even Ford, with an electric Mustang is coming out. So I think we're going to get there. Right now can be defined as the era of exponential growth. That is, so few are converting to EVs, but you're going to be in this period of just absolute exponential growth. You're looking at a 5% over time, I should say. You're imagining a chart, and it's just a very slow slope. But I really expect the ramp up to start in the next 5 to 10 years as people look at this more of an option.
Okay, so I do this to you all the time, and I know you hate this. I want you to put the crystal ball. I know you put the crystal. I need you to put the crystal ball in here.
Let me borrow yours.
Yeah, because I know your wife. By the way, you're not seeing Patrick for once for the TV version of this coming through our TV screen, because his VoIP is down. But my question would be this, because Johnny Lunchbucket cares about a couple of things. How am I going to pay the mortgage? Am I going to be able to put my kids through school? And gas prices, because gas prices, Patrick, are basically a tax on all of us. You have to pay it. You have no choice other than to pay it. You're going to pay it. Up or down at the end of 2019 from here on out for gas prices in the state of California?
I think overall down. California, you talked about...
God bless you.
What's that?
I said, God bless you.
I don't want to take credit for it. We're talking about bad events and, talking about rising prices. But I'll give you a bone in that prices will be lower by the end of the year, for the simple reason that California has yet to switch back to cheaper winter gasoline, but the rest of the country already did.
All right. So overall, he's giving us good news again. Patrick, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. I'm going to steal you again next week because I missed your little face there on this TV screen. Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at gasbuddy.com. All right. I keep on bringing you guys great CEOs from the city of San Diego. I got another one coming up. And they make hats, and I got a lot of them. Stand by. Hey, welcome to your weekend. News Radio 600 Kogo, San Diego Business Weekend. I'm Sully. Thanks again to Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy. Boy, I'll tell you, he makes me feel, sometimes he makes me feel worse, but he's making me feel better on this deal. Because he said gas prices are going to go for the end of the year. That's good. Hey, catch me every morning on Good Morning San Diego and KUSI and the San Diego Morning News right here on News Radio 600 Kogo. And, of course, with Rusty Nails and myself on the Big Biz Show, nationwide, coast to coast, 110 million TV homes strong, 150 radio stations in 175 countries, bigbizshow.com. Of course, here, after you listen to us on the radio anywhere from San Diego up to Santa Barbara and east to Yuma, you can catch the TV version of San Diego Business Weekend right on Kogo.com, keyword Sully. I'm very excited for our next guest. And I've heard about this guy for a long time. Many of you know that I run a venture firm here in San Diego, and it is in the what they call the SAL space, which is sports, action, lifestyle. It used to be called ASR, Action Sports Retail. Think Quicksilver. Think Viore, who we've had Joe Cudla on the air with us before. Think Canyon Bicycles, who we've had on the air with us before. This cat here, we heard news about this company that was making upscale headwear, and we thought, okay. Then one of my partners brought me a hat to lunch at one point. It had a little case to it. I said, no, there's no way this is going to go anywhere. Then we thought, hey, wait a second. We should look at this thing. And then sure enough, they raised their money before we had a chance to go through it. But turns out that our good friend Lauren Finney, the morning host over at KUSI, has a pretty smart husband. And his name is Brian McDonell. He is the founder. Do I call it? Is it called Melin Brand, or is it Melin Hats?
It's called Melin.
Melin.
That's it.
And you guys make upscale headwear.
That's it. We exist to build an extremely kind of like over the top new level option for people in ball caps.
Okay, and by the way, I just have to tell you, I have purchased personally. Even before, because we found out about the deal, so I went and bought some stuff because you don't want them to give it to you when you're looking at this thing. You want to be able to do it yourself and kind of experience the front end sales and everything else about it. And I fell in love with these things. I have literally 8 of these things, and I ordered 2 more, and I wear them every single day.
Appreciate.
I've had them on the air here before.
No, appreciate.
On radio. They're in every single person in the Kogo studios has seen me wear your hat every single day because I always wear it. So the crew's going to steal those. I'm never going to see those, except for I get that gray one. So you're not stealing that one. Here's my question to you. You weren't just some dude that came up with an idea. You have a fashion background, don't you?
Yeah, action sports and product development
But you also were educated that way.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Ended up originally going to college, play soccer up at Chico in Northern California. Only lasted about a year there.
Okay.
Got allegedly in trouble for some fake ID stuff and had to move home.
You didn't have to disclose that, but I'm glad you did. That's interesting.
Upon moving, it's kind of the pivotal point. So upon moving home, I decided rather than like a general education, I already knew I wanted to own a brand at some point. And
you did? Did you know you wanted to have a brand?
Yeah, I grew up skateboarding, snowboarding, wakeboarding, and just kind of a huge fan. Always idolized. Some kids looked up to pro athletes. I loved like the story of the brands Volcom and Ruka, and so to me it was something I studied. And
Ruka, by the way, is when you see a kid in a shirt that says RVCA, it doesn't say RVCA, it says Ruka, and Ruka is Brazilian for like my little Chico or something. It's a term of endearment, by the way. Were you educated in fashion at, what is the name of that place?
FITM. Fashion Institute of Design and
FITM has a lot of big names behind it.
Yeah, it's kind of the West Coast powerhouse in the fashion world. I was lucky enough that at the time I attended downtown LA's campus there, the co-founder of Hurley, a guy named Joe Commercial, happened to be teaching. So from 99% of my classes teaching me how to make a dress, finally I step into Joe's class and he goes, I started a little brand called Hurley, and my ears perked up.
So here's what's interesting, and I've interviewed a lot of folks on this program, and by the way, our guest Brian McDonell, founder of Melin, which is upscale headwear here in San Diego, and recently purchased by Olakai, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but I've interviewed restaurant owners here in San Diego because I always thought the restaurant business was one of those things where just because you had a good location, just because you had a great chef, didn't necessarily mean you were going to make it. There was a, forgive the pun, a secret sauce in restaurant business that the inside club knows. And I've always said the same thing about the sports action lifestyle business. You know, the Hurleys of the world, the Nixon watches of the world, the Sanuk, Jeff Kelly with Sanuk, Viore, Joe Cudla, who's been on this program a number of times. There's a secret. And by the way, we used to broadcast from the Action Sports Retail show as a live radio.
Here in San Diego?
Here in San Diego.
Oh,
we went down to the
wow.
convention there a number of times. There's a secret sauce there that you guys keep very close to the vest on how the business works, because look, it all started with a guy named Sean Stussy, in my opinion, who put a cool signature on a T-shirt, and suddenly Action Sports Retail was like suddenly guys are paying $30 for a T-shirt, and then Maui and Sons came along, and then Catch It came along, and all of those brands came along, And suddenly it wasn't just about what was on the hat or the shirt or the trunks. It was about how you guys interacted during the buying section. Talk a little bit about that part of it.
I think it's probably not as secret of a sauce as to just stay capitalized for many, many years. It's a business that I think the people that are successful at it understand that there's kind of a like top of pyramid approach where if you plan to build a brand that gets adopted by the early adopters, you've got to be showing up in the right retailers. You've got to be able to last long enough to survive while remaining in a very small amount of revenue. But
so one of the best brand guys in the world is Beaver Theodosakis, who from No Fear, as well as Prana, who he sold to Columbia not once but twice, who happens to be on the board of directors of one of my companies. And he always talked about one of the smartest things guys like you do is find influencers to wear your stuff. And I think that might be the secret sauce, is you create something cool and you get visible people to wear it. Much like
part of it.
You put Coca-Cola in the hands of Brad Pitt or any star, suddenly that helps. How instrumental was influencers for you guys in the beginning?
Paramount. I'd say that having a really authentic tribe that actually backs you is probably the most important part of influencers. You can pay anybody or take care of anybody to get them to wear something once usually, but if someone actually is a fan of what you've created and is also an influential person, that's when like true momentum begins. So it's how do you knock on that door the first time when you're a young guy that has a young brand and a new company, new concept? To start this thing, I blew up the 3 highest powered kind of leadership guys I could on LinkedIn. I had a bunch of buddies that were reps of brands. I got an idea.
Typing.
Yeah, it's a disruptor. It's a category creator. There's going to be levels. I even tried to get a hold of the New Era brass over at New Era,
right?
For years, literally 2 years, about 100 emails, and never got through to anyone. But initially, this idea was we're going to be the premium division of New Era. So, anyways. I finally got John Vance to former president of Sanuk, and did the transaction with Jeff Kelly to Deckers and 11 times, multiple. It was great, just a great leader. And then the Sanuk brand resonated well with me. And so figured if this guy's done it before, he could be at the table with us, keep us from stepping on landmines and help us raise money credibility wise. He took us straight down to the president of Wasserman Media Group, who was formerly Steve Astafin.
Right. Who we've had on there.
Yeah, and Steve's become a good friend and a huge help to the way we've built this thing. But Steve said, look, best way to do this would be to get you in front of the coolest guy I know who will tell us if it's actually cool, and his name's JJ. So I was introduced to Julian Jones, a.k.a. the babysitter to the stars.
Yep.
Former biz dev guy for the Maloofs at the Palms Casino and the Sacramento Kings.
So you get guys like that involved.
And JJ started just making it rain these hats on all of his network and coming back with tons of feedback. This is too heavy.
We have to talk about the hats at some point.
Yeah.
And you have fashion hats, but you also have technical hats.
Craft and performance. So to create the best headwear in the world was the initial mission here and remains true today. Best is kind of subjective to the way you like to wear things. And I kind of took the approach of there's a shoe for every part of life. You can get a running shoe to run in. You can get a polished dress shoe for stepping out in a tux. So we figured best kind of meant best materials, best performing, most sustainably sourced. Like we tried to kind of define what best meant. And so ultimately had to be the most comfortable, highest quality hat ever made. So we introduced the brand.
And look at and if you look at these on the TV screen or you have to. It's not just a baseball cap. You have to hold it in your hand to understand exactly what you're dealing with here, because it really is. It really is exceptional. It's like the first time you put on a cool pair of running shoes in your life.
Appreciate
it. You had like Chucks, you had Converse, and then all of a sudden somebody put a pair of Nikes on your feet.
That's it.
Right? Honestly. So who started, like, did you say, I want to, like, one of the coolest things is this little rubber thing here, which is almost like a grip to take it off.
Yeah.
Although you need a left-handed one for lefties. But the bottom line is,
Lauren says that.
Like, who came up with all the stuff?
So it's only 16 pieces to make a hat, so there's not a ton there to innovate, but we realized that for 50 years no one had ever tried to elevate any of the pieces, and so we just said, all right, we're going to make a couple of these issues that we think suck about having your favorite hat. First thing is it blows out, the crown starts to fail in shape, which is held up by the buckram, and so we looked at why is that happening, and it was just really crappy material, so we came up with our own kind of polymer and nylon blend to create shape for our hats so it holds shape really well. We didn't want sweat stains to be an issue on our hats, so we looked at how annoying is it when a hat finally starts fitting perfect and then you got the big
you know. Stay right there. This is okay. You just said something here, and there's people driving around San Diego and LA and who knows where. You said the word buckram, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a piece of a hat. You're going to have to go through and finally tell us all the names of the things on a hat.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, stay right there. Good stuff. melinbrand.com is the website. Brian McDonell is the founder of Melin. Upscale headwear. And they're right here from San Diego. It's a lesson in business and a lesson in fashion. San Diego Business Weekend. I'm Sully. It's News Radio 600 Kogo. Stand by.
Like this year. Whoa. Gene, give me something to write on. Oh man, I think the clock is slow.
News Radio 600 Kogo. San Diego Business Weekend. Okay, this is really good stuff. If you go to, is it melinbrand.com? melinbrand.com.
Spelled uniquely.
Yeah, it's not melon like your melon head. Tell us about the name.
The name? So, to build the best headwear in the world, went on kind of like a research bender like you would in college to do your thesis, and found that the ancient art of millinery, which is custom hat making,
millinery
dates all the way back to the 1500s in Milan, Italy, where you'd go to the cobbler to get your custom shoes made, the tailor to get your custom suit, and the milliner to get your custom hat.
No kidding.
So I wanted to easily
that's a great brand story.
Easily ownable SEO. So unique spelling on something that
and Milan, of course, is Fashion Week every year is in Milan.
Yep.
Right?
Totally.
Brian McDonell, founder of Melin Brand, and it's upscale headwear, and I can tell you it's an interesting story. Did you guys you have a co-founder I saw on your website.
Buddy, Corey Roth.
And where did you guys meet?
Chico State.
Chico State. So a couple of college guys gone good, and you guys figured out a way to take a category, which is hats. Think of this: you hear radio commercials all over for Tommy John underwear. Underwear is another category that sort of did this. No one had reimagined category of underwear. Stance. Which the same guys who founded Skull Candy did Stance.
Good buddies of ours.
And by the way, here's the good news: is that I get to meet a lot of those people because of all of the support that we do for Challenge Athletes Foundation, and we've every single. I'm going to hit you guys up for a donation for CAF.
Do it.
You need to you need to get involved in that. I've ridden down the coast on a bicycle with everyone from Bill Walton to Robin Williams, with the founder of Skull Candy, to the guys from Quicksilver, to the guys from Hurley. I need to get you involved with that bike ride next year, because it's a life changer. But it's interesting how every one of you guys picked a category like the Stance guys. Okay, we're going to make a better sock, and the next thing you know, the NBA is now picking up their socks because nobody thought about improving the stuff that needs to be improved.
Exactly.
Talk about, with respect to the hat, there's different, so what's the thing on top called? What's the button on top called?
That's literally what it's called.
The button.
It used to have a function back in the day when it would become like the fastener to all 6 of your crown panels, which are the outer panels of the hat.
So those are called crown panels.
Yep. Nowadays, the hats have a taping, which actually it overlays where the seams are sewn together. So technically, that button serves no purpose other than to clean up the top of the hat, and we're actually bringing a pretty cool innovation there soon.
Oh, so is that coming?
It's coming. If you've ever bonked your head on something and that metal button has kind of popped you in the top of the head, we're creating our own. It still has the aesthetic of a button, but it's compressible and super comfy. So
now, is that something is there a design patent or a utility patent that you could try?
We could try it. to me, I think the first mover advantage is kind of our go ahead.
It's called the Sully, by the way, just so you know, because I smacked my head. Now, you got the bill, you got the button.
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing in the front called again?
Your crown panels or your exterior outer panels.
And what was the word you used before the break?
Buckram.
What's the buckram?
The buckram is if you've ever got a baseball cap and looked inside and it has this white mesh behind the front panels, that's like basically a plastic shaper that 55 years ago was invented and has for some reason remained uninnovated until now.
And then the fastener in the back, what you would normally see in a trucker's cap or something like that, and imagine the plastic thing you had with your Little League cap and everything else. This is rubber though.
Yeah,
it's a little different. It's not the hard plastic.
Exactly. We took a page out of our buddies at Nixon who built a really malleable and soft yet really rigid and strong rubber polymer based watch band.
Sure.
And said, wouldn't this be more comfortable on your head and help it last longer if it was water friendly, sweat friendly, and could have a little flex?
So you can take these if people are surfing or people are hiking or people are walking up Potato Chip Rock and they sweat on it, they can toss that thing in the washing machine, can't they?
They can. We have a new capsule it's a collection called Melin Hydro, and it was specifically designed, engineered, tested against, and developed for use in and out of the water and fight basically water-related death to your hat.
Yeah. If you by the way, try to put a flex fit cap into the washing machine, not to try and pull it out. There is no more inner band. All the stuff it's completely disintegrates. 100%. Talk about the baseball cap, flat bill, regular bill controversy, because that is an argument in the world. And whether you know this or not, you don't have to listen to talk radio or sports radio. This is a big deal right now.
It is.
This is a big deal with the players and the owners and the league
and for the world.
So flat bill versus what are they? Just regular bill,
versus curve visor.
Oh, and by the way, do you know what it's called? You have to know this, and if you don't, I'm going to feel so good. What is it called when you bend the front of your hat?
Curving it.
Cootering it.
Cootering.
You cooter your hat. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I just taught the founder of Melin. Chris, look up when you cooter your hat.
Okay.
Is when you take it and it's called cootering your hat.
That's going to be
dude, I need to be on the wall there somewhere.
That's a new word in the office.
Yeah, and by the way, you'll name a brand around it because it'll be and then there's also a word for the ones when the Marine Corps guys do the V.
They build. I don't know.
That's another one. I don't know what that's called. But cootering your cap is when you pull it down. Now, talk about because this is a big controversy because when you look at the caps here, Chris, maybe you can put the camera on this. The darker cap has a curved bill, but the lighter cap here, that's two-tone, has a flat bill. Talk about that a little bit.
This is unique.
This is big. This is right-wing, left-wing controversy.
It really is. So my partner Corey and I go back and forth on this all the time. I'm a flat visor guy. I've tried to go cooter visor.
Do you know why I'm flat visor?
And,
fits sunglasses way better.
I agree.
You can put a pair of sunglasses, you can put a pair of Ray-Bans on.
These Lokes, absolutely.
And you have no problem with it. Now, and that's my biggest deal. I'm always doing that because otherwise.
To me, it's shade too. I want as much coverage as I can get on this Irish, red nose. So,
but there is a controversy there.
Yeah,
isn't there?
it's a complete different style. So it's actually interesting. We've tried to figure this out for years and years, and we've come up with currently about 70% of the world.
Does anybody? I mean, does one brand sell better than the other? I mean, because if you're I should beg your pardon. One shape sell because I think with your Hydro version, those are more of a curved bill.
There should be about a 50-50 option there for purposes of flat versus curved. However, we have found 70-ish% of people, in the last 12 months,
it's now flat bill.
Prefer the curved.
Oh, no kidding.
They do. The youngsters are picking up the curved.
Janicus, you like curved or flat? Curtis? He's 50-50.
You?
You know what?
I brought you each.
I think I'm more flat now.
Okay.
Honestly, I've curved for a long time, but I'm the flat guy now. And I'm telling you. No, really. And the funny part is, so look it up when you cooter your cap.
We also pioneered this shape here.
Yeah, now I saw that too, because and by the way, if you're on the radio, I'm trying to describe what these look like, but imagine a regular ball cap, but I think we'll put some photographs. If you watch the TV, you'll be able to see. But if you honestly take a look at these things, they're different in so much as even the front of the cap has an extra panel on there that kind of holds the shape better. Talk about that piece.
It's this is Melin's Horizon Fit, and so this front panel, we've turned what you typically see, this north-south.
There would be a seam in the front of the center of the front of the cap.
We turned it sideways, and it creates a great kind of, it looks like a sun setting behind a horizon, the curved shape of that seam, but it frames the face really nicely.
Yeah.
It removes any sort of pressure on the front.
Here comes your fashion sense.
Yeah,
Here comes your fashion education sense.
That's it.
Is there anything else can be done to the cap? Because remember, before you were born, they had goofy stuff like they had like a thing that covered your neck back in the day.
Yeah, roll down neck flap.
Like a roll down neck flap.
Yeah.
Are you going to do any of that? Is there
we're doing all kinds of good. We have some crazy stuff coming. So one of our partners is a Formula One driver named Daniel Ricciardo.
Mm-hmm.
Ricciardo recently left Red Bull Racing to Renault,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a deal with this technology company called Mind Maze.
Uh-huh.
Well, they measure brain impact damage real time for Formula One drivers.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it's really spiked my interest, and I've been studying EKGs and trying to figure out how to incorporate some level of actual tech to
concussion technology in hats.
Concussion, not so much concussion. I'm kind of trying to
Impact technology.
I'm looking at like the sensory points that this
Oh,
touches
sure.
are the most valuable in the world.
Wow.
Being right on your brain.
So you're talking about biometric technology inside of a hat.
Correct. And I'm also in discussions with a very well-known high-end audio company to be the first to integrate what's called open ear technology.
Bluetooth hat. Just put my hat on. I can listen to music as it vibrates.
Because I train in the garage, and it's annoying to have someone on speaker or earbuds.
Right.
Or, you know.
Okay, so this is what I can put a suggestion in only because I can.
Please.
So me and the mayor of San Diego and the former chief of police of San Diego and a lot of pretty high-profile folks do this Challenge Athletes Foundation ride, and I will tell you, those stupid hats that they put underneath your bicycle helmet never work. They get hot. I want you to create a hat, okay, that I can wear underneath my bicycle helmet, okay, that doesn't necessarily have a bill, but maybe a bill that I can snap on later.
Tiny little bill.
See, I think that's what looks lame is the tiny little bill. It looks like I'm, some
I know that
guy
hat.
from 1950.
Yeah.
We have to create the snap-on bill or something that
Works.
That works.
For that.
Because here's the problem: because when you take, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you have Fabio hair. If you take your hat off, take your helmet off after a bike ride,
not
there's
looking good.
I don't care who you are. It looks. You got it. So you keep the hat on.
True that.
Pop the bill out. Then you're there.
I love that.
So we need. I would like to. I'd like to put that out there. Hey, listen. First of all, congratulations, Brian McDonell, founder of Melin Brand, and he no longer is referred to as Lauren Finney's husband. Lauren Finney, of course, of KUSI, Good Morning San Diego, is his spouse, but now he's also one of the big innovators in San Diego, and we try to feature
Appreciate it.
the captains of industry every single week, as well as the innovators. Brian, thanks so much, man. Good stuff. melinbrand.com. You're going to hear more from him, I promise you. All right. Thanks again to Christina Gustin from UBS and RKG Wealth Management, as well as my good friend Patrick DeHaan from GasBuddy.com. Have a great weekend. Catch me here Monday with Ted and LaDonna on San Diego Morning News, as well over at KUSI with Lauren Finney and Paul Rudy on Good Morning San Diego. And don't forget BigBizShow.com with me and Russ T. Nails, nationwide, coast to coast, TV and radio. If you want to get a hold of me, just go to SullySpeaks.com or find me here at Kogo.com. Who is that? That's Cooter!